So we are still here at Total Pro Expo, and now we're in the seminar area, and we've just heard some really great talks. So I would like one of the speakers to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about what he does.
So my name is Doug Fisher. I'm Secretary of Agriculture for the state of New Jersey. I'm here at the Total Pro Conference just talking with a number of vendors and the NJNLA and all, groups that work together for the landscape and nursery industry. And it's an impressive show. I always love coming and help people. They learn about the Department of Agriculture and things that we do, and we're here to help promote the industry and work with them.
So what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis? So not only at the show here today, but what are some of the programs that are offered or things that you're involved to help the industry?
Well, in New Jersey, of course, we have a number of programs like the marketing programs like Jersey Fresh, Jersey Grown, Jersey Bred, all those programs. We're to promote the industries and the like. So that's one of the areas. You ask what else we do. The Department of Agriculture is involved in people's lives pretty much in many ways that they might not even realize. Like we run all the food and nutrition programs. We're the ones that administer for all the schools in New Jersey. And so we're always pushing for school gardens. But then, of course, we have several divisions within the department. So we have plant, which goes out and does nursery inspections. We also have a beneficial insect lab in the Department of New Jersey, in the Department of Agriculture, where we raise beneficial insects, which is, we're very proud of the work that's done there. And we also have animal labs that we do testing for, various animal species in agriculture.
Okay, yeah, that's great, because with the insects, that really reduces the amount of pesticides that are needed, right? So for an integrated pest management program.
Right.
So that's...
we're actually supplying bugs to growers that want to grow organically, and they find this to be really helpful to them. We also have released bugs that control wasps that control parasites. We have mile a minute. We have bugs that we release that stop the growth and spread of mile a minute. It's a whole number of different areas. Yeah, so we're very, as I said, very proud of the work that's done there.
Well, we appreciate all the work that you do, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you believe it's March already, Lisa?
I know, the winter went so fast.
And where's the snow?
Well, I'm glad that there's no snow.
Yeah, I know. We were talking about that earlier. So, and to be honest with you, so am I. So I can't complain.
Yeah.
But I thought today would be fun to really focus on plants that, A, bloom in March, but B, a lot of homeowners don't know about because they're oftentimes not held. They're sold in garden centers, and people go into garden centers at this time of year, and what do they see? Not a lot. No. So I thought we'd focus on some plants that you can buy in the fall that you would plant, such as crocus. And then we have some stunning, and I mean stunning, woody plants that not only do they look great, but they have wonderful fragrance. So if you're really trying to add interest to the garden, both in color, fragrance, and just a stunner, and all your neighbors will come over and go, where did you get those plants? So that's what we want to sort of do. Is how do you make your garden interesting in March when typically everyone's thinking forsythia? No forsythia. No forsythia. No forsythia. We're gonna talk about really cool plants today. So stay tuned.
Okay.
So we alluded to it before, but this is a witch hazel that I'm standing underneath, and this might be a plant that you don't typically see. I remember 30, 40 years ago when I was starting out, you didn't see witch hazels at all. This is Yelena, and it's pronounced Yelena, but the spelling starts with a J. And it is a shorter growing form, so witch hazels can get upwards of 30 feet tall. This one maxes out around 15 to 18 feet. But it gets quite wide, so it can get upwards of 25 feet wide. It'll bloom for about a month, and it's very fragrant. So not only do you have this wonderful color at a time of year that you don't expect, you have fragrance to go with it. It makes a great espalier. In other words, you can make it two-dimensional up against a wall, and I've done that on several jobs, and it looks fantastic. So you can use them in totally different ways. So Yelena happens to be orange and yellow, but you can also get witch hazels in all yellow. You can get them bright red. You can get them deep red, so they come in a variety. Arnold Promise, believe it or not, was the first one out. It was a seedling at the Arnold Arboretum, and it maxes out around 40 feet tall, so it actually becomes almost a tree. It is a tree, so which is also in bloom in February into March. So there's a tremendous number of them out there, so seek them out, and garden centers carry them. So by the time you go there in April and May, obviously they won't have the flowers, but you can get the plants. And so do a little research. Which color do you want? I happen to like the yellows because they pop out more. The reds tend to blend into the mulch in the background, but you know, to each their own. So so think about witch hazels for March gardens. So the process of dividing them is a great way, because say that you really happen to like this form here, which has the silvery outer petals to it, and you want to make more of them.
Right.
As we were mentioning before, you're not guaranteed that you're going to get this one type when you put the bulb in the ground. So now you're looking at it, oh, I really like that. So when you dig them up, you can split them and then move it around your garden.
Okay.
So the process of splitting it is you take this soil knife, which you can buy a lot of. When you walk into stores with this on your side, you really look lethal. But in Japan, they call it a hori-hori. So you can Google that, and you'll get forms that are from Japan.
Okay.
Or this was actually made in Italy, this form. But regardless, they're great for digging things, planting things, splitting things, weeding, whatever. It's a great little tool, and it's great for splitting up the bulb. So here you got winter aconite. Mm-hmm. And all you want to do is, of course, make an incision right down the middle. Okay,
and we just dug these up a few minutes ago.
We just dug these up a few minutes ago.
So do you want to do it right away, as soon as you dig it? Does it matter?
Preferably, right after you dig it. And then you can see it's still in bloom. That's fine. Doesn't matter. And it has a serrated edge to it, which makes it nice to cut it.
Okay.
Just keep chopping. And it doesn't matter if you slice one of the bulbs. It makes it work well.
Okay.
But there you go. And now hold it up to the light and see, we now have two plants. And so there you go. And which easy to divide, easy to move them around the garden. And so it's a way of taking give or take $1.50 investment last fall, and keeping the investment going. So if I could get my 401k in this, I'd be golden.
That's right. And then does it matter how much of the root is still on it, or how much soil around it?
So these are what they call minor bulbs. So they're only down about 1.5 inches to 2 inches in the ground.
Okay.
So you don't have to dig a big amount of soil out. So it's going to be very shallow. And these actually come from a tuber, whereas these actually come from a corm, both of which are actually stems, underground stems. But and here you can do that for the crocus too.
Okay, great. Because this one is my favorite.
That is your favorite. Okay.
That's it. That silvery color. So
she's
pretty.
going home with this one.
Yeah. All right.
See, it's just like cutting bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut it in half.
Easy.
There you go. And if you cut a couple, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You can replant these. They're going to continue to flower for you for another 1.5 to 3 weeks, depending on how cold it stays. And then they'll be ready to go for next year. And and then you could divide it up again next year.
Okay, perfect. So pretty.
They are. So,
well, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
So now we're here with Jeremy, and he is going to tell us about the winter jasmine.
So right behind us is a winter jasmine. Has beautiful winter interests, the bright yellow flowers. Usually start in December and go through March. It just adds a nice pop of color in the dead of winter when everything's kind of blah and depressing. And it has a nice contrast with the stone wall of the building. And just like I said, it adds great winter interest for your garden.
So do you have to plant it against a wall, like in a spot that has support, or?
It climbs. It's a vine, so it does climb. So yes, I would plant it along a wall or a fence or something like that. But yeah, it could provide nice interest for something, especially if you have an unsightly fence or something like that you want to cover.
Wow. Well, it really looks pretty.
Thank you. Yeah.
The color is great.
It is great. Yes. Yeah. And it stands out.
It definitely stands out. And then I saw that there's a hellebore over here.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the hellebores. Is that a winter flowering plant?
It is a winter flowering plant. You can cut them back, but they typically bloom around now.
Okay.
And yeah, they're also a nice pop of color for the winter time, yeah.
I noticed some, like a greenish white one when we were heading in,
There-
and like a plum kind of
Yeah,
burgundy one.
yeah, there are different colored types, yes. And yeah, you can kind of mix them and have fun with it.
Okay, well, I use them as a cut flower too.
Yes, yeah, they're very nice, yes.
Yeah, they look great
Yeah.
in floral arrangements. So,
Yes.
so nice at this time of year when there's not much else going on.
Yeah, it is. It is very nice. And like I said, it stands out. So even yesterday we were walking through the gardens and from a distance it really pops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about the plants.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So we're just here hanging out in the garden, and I have,
Meg Brown.
and you're going to tell us about a few of the pretty plants that are blooming right now.
Yes, these are some of our favorite winter bloomers. We have snowflake right here, which is also leucojum. And we have a little bit of snowflake here, and that is galanthus. And they really pop out when it's cold in the winter and you're looking for spring, and then you see these pop in the garden, and it gives you something to really look forward to. And they're gorgeous on dark days and bright sunny days. And they're beautiful with these nodding flower heads that come down and just hang, and they move in the wind, as you can see here. And then if you get right down on the ground, you can pop them up and see how gorgeous they are on the inside. So we do have an example of a snowdrop here. And then this is an example of a double. And the double flowering types just have extra petals, and they give you that little extra pizzazz on your bulbs and flowers.
They're so pretty. How long will they bloom?
These will bloom for, let's see, when are we? We are in February. I would expect these to bloom into March. And then some others will pop a little bit later and continue the bloom. And then as these are fading, all of our other spring bulbs will pop up, and you'll look for those things like tulips, the
Oh,
early
nice.
blooming tulips. And they are so fun in the winter when not much else is going on.
Well, it's such a nice day today, and it's so nice to be sitting here enjoying these. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're happy to have you here.
I want to talk to you about our Ask a Pro segment. So that's the segment where you can send in any of your gardening and horticulture questions, and we'll have one of our pros answer it for you. So you may be wondering, who are our pros and how do they get to be a pro? Well, we have a certification called Certified Nursery and Landscape Professional with the New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association. So with that, it's a combination of education, experience, and testing. So in all facets of horticulture. So you can send in any of those questions, and we will match it with one of our pros and make sure that we get the answers out to you that you need. So if you see somebody that has that designation, you can be sure that they are thoroughly trained and you can trust them with all of your horticultural needs. So I hope you enjoyed the segment. So Chris, you know, it's still cold outside, it's still winter, we even had some snow. But pretty soon, homeowners are going to start thinking about their yards. So whether they want things planted or they want some hardscape done, how do you determine the products that they should use? Whether it's pavers, bluestone, tell me a little bit about your process.
Yes, so on an initial consultation, I'll go to a client's house, and the first thing you do is you assess the environment, right? Do they have any existing hardscape down? Is it concrete? Is it natural stone? And for me, one of the biggest things to keep a cohesiveness in the landscape is to duplicate that, right? If there's natural stone, if there's bluestone, stick with bluestone, right? If it's a natural rustic setting, keep it natural, right? Don't try to go concrete and natural stone and this and that. It gets too busy. Simple is always better with landscaping, in my opinion, so it meshes well, and that's usually where I like to lead my clients.
Okay, so And I assume that you take the architecture of the house into consideration. So
Sure.
like you said, don't try to fight
Right.
what they already have.
Sure.
So if you have a traditional home, what kind of products are you going to use versus something contemporary?
So, good question. I mean, that's a tricky one because it kind of matters on, environment settings. Is it a development, right? If it's a traditional kind of McMansion, so to speak, right? Pavers are okay, but if they want to keep it nice and clean, you can always go with a bluestone. I mean, we specialize in bluestone, so that's usually my go-to if I have my say in it, which I usually like to.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your bluestone work, and it's beautiful. And I know sometimes you use a regular shape
flagging.
pieces.
Great,
okay.
great application.
And then sometimes it's a little bit like more rectangular. So tell
Sure.
us about the different applications of
Yeah,
that.
so again, a flagstone is going to be a little bit more rustic, right? Curvilinear lines, something a little bit more organic shaped, whereas if it's more modern or more clean, right, we'll use something that's more dimensional, a dimensional bluestone, a thermal, something like that. Really brings out, nice clean lines and gives a nice modern feel to the house.
Okay, yeah, nice. And then how about cost-wise for these materials? So
going up by the day,
okay.
by the minute.
By the minute.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure, especially lately,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But how about compared to pavers?
Sure. So, I mean, contrary to popular belief, I mean, bluestone has always been, like a thermal bluestone has always been something that's been like top of the line as far as hardscape is concerned. Now they make pavers that are, very, very similar in cost. The difference is when you're working with a natural stone, they say it's 1.5 inches thick, but it either comes 1.25 inches or 1.75 inches, so it's really artisan work to lay it down. Each stone has to be laid separately, so it really takes somebody, some skill and some knowledge to be able to put it together. As far as the pavers go, they're all 2 3/8 inches, so you screed it and it's done.
Okay, good point. So a lot of the difference is the labor.
Yes, yeah.
And
but
the skill.
Right, correct, yeah. And the time it takes to do it, so you can always cruise with the pavers.
Okay. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for telling us about that, and good luck this spring.
Thank you, looking forward to it.
A lot of plants are evergreen, and people sort of forget about some herbaceous plants that are evergreen too. So this is sacred lily, and it's from Japan. It's one of those plants that I think 99% of the people don't know yet, and so that's why we're doing this. And so it not only is it evergreen, it'll tolerate wet sites, it'll tolerate average soil as we're in right now. Deer don't like it, so if you have deer, here's your plant. If you have two genetically different types, so you didn't take this plant and divide it, you have two plants that are grown from seed, so they're a little bit different, it'll produce red fruit, which again, that is ornamental all winter long. So, great, interesting texture plant, ground cover.
So pretty.
So, does this meet your stamp of approval?
I love this, and especially the red fruit down there.
Yeah.
I thought it was fake at first.
No, you think?
I thought somebody dropped something.
We went around, stuck them in the ground, right? Yeah. But anyway, it just I think a lot of people are thinking ground covers. They think pachysandra or vinca. They don't think about something like this, which in a small area would make an awesome ground cover. And obviously, we're in heavy shade, and it's loving it. So so if you got a spot like this, here's your plant.
Perfect.
So one thing that Willowwood Arboretum is known for are some of the champion trees of New Jersey.
Okay.
So some big trees.
Yeah.
But just because they're old doesn't mean they're big. So we're standing in front of Cornus moss, Cornelian cherry dogwood. And this is the biggest one in the state, and this has been here since the 20s, so the 1920s that is. So it's 100 years old. And what's interesting about this plant is it comes on with these little small button yellow flowers, and it blooms before forsythia, and it's just starting to crack open right now.
Oh, I see the buds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it lights up, and most people don't even know that this plant exists. And so it's native to Europe. And especially you'll find a number of different selections with Polish names. And in Poland, they'll make a jam out of the fruits. So the fruits will come on after the flowers, obviously. They'll appear in July, and they'll become, when they turn darkish purplish red, that's when they're the least insipid or bitter.
Okay.
So you have to add a lot of jam or sugar to the jam, but they're very high in vitamin C, so it's actually a very nutritious treat. And so not only do you get great flowers, but you get great fruit. And you can prune this tree into a hedge. So if you start with young ones, you can make it as a 4-foot high or a 3-foot high hedge and keep it really short. And when I first saw it at Chicago Botanic Garden years ago, I was walking along, I was like, ooh, what's that really cool hedge? And lo and behold, it was this thing. It was only this tall though. They kept it really short.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is really
Yeah.
cool.
So again, you look at these big trees and you go, well, okay, so what? But when you start to think of all the applications that they have for the home garden, it's really, I think interesting. And as a designer, and you're a designer, I think a lot of homeowners think, well, what can I use for hedges?
Right.
And they think privet, they think yew, they think Japanese holly, but there's all these really other interesting plants that could be applied for a hedge. So anyway.
Yeah, great alternatives.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess we can't eat the buds though. You said you have to wait.
Yeah, you can't eat the flowers, so
I was gonna snack on a
yeah,
few
I
now.
know we're a little hungry now, aren't we? Yeah. but anyway, just another interesting plant. And so if you come to Willowwood, you can check this out when it's in bloom.
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling us about it. It's beautiful.
Thank you. So I know you've used this plant.
Yeah.
So, and I know it doesn't look like a lot right now, but give it another week or so, it'll come out with these really, really cool flowers, which, and they're white. So the common name is white forsythia. So, and like forsythia, the deer don't eat it. So we're starting to get a trend going here.
Right.
So, and again, another plant you're not going to see in the garden centers. So, but the flowers are not only white with a little bit of pink in them, but they're sweetly scented. And then in the fall, it comes on with yellow, purple, different types of fall color to it, which again really adds to the seasonality of the plant. But again, are you going to find this in your average garden center?
No.
No. So that makes it the biggest challenge is, you have to request it and have them bring it in for you. But it just lights up the March garden like you couldn't believe. How have you used it?
So I've used it just in some beds, like along edges.
Okay.
As like a little bit of a screening as well. And it's nice that it has this wild kind of shape. So you don't have to do maintenance, you don't have to prune it, you just let it go. And definitely worth it to find these more unusual plants.
Yes.
So much prettier than, the yellow variety that you see all over the place.
Yep.
So this is one to definitely try in your garden.
Yep. So again, we've mentioned this over and over again, but if you like fragrance in the garden, a lot of the early bloomers are definitely going to provide you with that fragrance.
Yes. So Bruce, I bet a lot of viewers know what this is.
I bet they do.
Because it's in a lot of places, but for anybody that doesn't, tell us a little bit about it and where they can use it.
So red stem dogwoods, it's sort of an interesting thing because only the first 3 years of growth is red. After that, the bark tends to turn sort of a corky brown. And the reason that it's red is it has anthocyanins in it, which actually is protective, so it protects the plant from the UV light. But the use for the gardener is that it's alive all winter with these bright red stems. And if you put it in front of an evergreen so that you have complementary colors working, so red and green being complementary, it'll just pop. And so by itself, it's okay. But if you put 3, 4, 5, you make a mass of them, and then you put it in front of an evergreen, wow, do you have a statement. So.
Wow.
And then the pruning comes in, though, is that either every 3 years you cut the entire plant to the ground, or each year you take out about 1/3 of the wood. So that way in 3 years it's totally rejuvenated again. So depending upon what you want to do. But pruning is key because I've seen a lot of places where they'll shear this, which you don't want to do, and then it's essentially you removed all the new growth and just keeping the old corky brown growth, and you don't have this excitement in the wintertime like you would have otherwise. So. But great plant.
So much good info, and I never thought to use it like that.
Oh,
to put
okay.
evergreens behind it, so now I have to do that. That's
Cool.
my new project.
There you go.
Thank
we
you.
all have one.
Making more work for me.
Oh, dang. You know, they call this place Willowwood, and it has a lot of willows, trust me. But there, at this time of year, when you start to see the catkins appear, I think everyone goes towards the large ones, which we typically call pussy willows. But this one, I just love this for a little detail. So this is rubicans, which sort of like some of the vehicles that are out there, but it has these tiny little pink flowers on the catkins, and it's just a lot more detailed. So if it's one of those plants that you're looking, even though it's a big plant, but if you're looking for something a little bit more intimate in scale, for a smaller garden, and you're like, oh, I don't want those large, coarser flowers, what can I have?
Right.
This is an interesting willow for that, and that's, I think, why a lot of people do come to Willowwood, because they're looking for, you know, what can I find that's unusual? And I don't know if you find this as interesting as me, but this really draws my attention.
So it is very interesting, but I have to say, I just can't help it. I like the showy ones.
Okay,
So here we go.
there you are.
That one's my favorite. Look how big those are.
No, it's gorgeous. I agree. So, and the interesting thing is that this will last for several weeks. So, you know, when you cut these and bring them inside, they really make a nice statement. And they usually root. So
Yes.
you can end up with some more plants after it's all said and done. So, anyway, so we got this, and then the last willow over there is goat willow. And so this is sort of in between. So it's got, again, it has the white catkins to it, but they're a little bit smaller and a little bit more intimate. So again, depending upon what you're looking for, I could tell this isn't your cup of tea. But, you know, I'm like, yeah, okay. But again, I think this is interesting too. So it depends upon what you're really looking for in your garden and for bringing in for cuts.
Now, I have a question. So if you were to root it, when can you plant it?
Ah, good question. So leave it inside. So typically you would leave it in a vase of water, and so leave it inside for about a month, till about mid-April or so. It'll leaf out and so forth, but if you put it out, pot it up into a small pot with some container soil, you know, potting soil, you can leave it in your garage for a while, so it protect it from any cold nights that come along, because you don't want to, once it get leaves on it, you don't want the temperature to go below freezing. So, you know, keeping it in your garage might make sense. And then when you get to early May, typically we're safe at that point. May 15th is our average frost-free date, but, you know, early May we're probably safe, and you could put it out in the garden.
Okay, sounds good.
Good question, though.
Yeah, well, they're all pretty.
Yes, okay.
So I do like them all.
Okay. So, and lastly, though, we got that one guy here. And this is a tree that you typically don't see too often, and it's in the witch hazel family again. So we've been featuring a lot of witch hazels today. But this is called Persian ironwood. So it's an interesting plant for the fact that it has exfoliating bark, so it has winter interest. And then it comes on with these small flowers that actually look like roses. And they'll open up and the petals will come down, and it'll just be like this haze on the tree. So it's not as dramatic as some of the witch hazels we saw today, but it still gives you a nice impact. Great foliage for the summer, and then it gets screaming yellows and orange and red fall color. So, and it's tough. You can plant this in gravel and sand, and it will still do well. So,
Oh, wow.
a plant that a lot of people don't know, but again, great for that late winter interest that, again, we were talking about all day today. So,
Yeah, and such a pretty bright red color.
isn't it? I think it's great. So, anyway, just something more for people to add. And there's several of them here at Willowwood for people to enjoy.
Yeah, so many pretty things here. And thank you for telling us about so many of them. And
My pleasure. This is my, as you know, this is my love. So,
right.
so. Oh, always a great place to work.
Yeah, well, my favorite part was the greenhouse, of course.
Yes, well,
on a
it's
day
nice
like today.
Nice and warm in there today. Exactly.
So where should we head next? Let me see, what time is it? Oh, don't you have jury duty?
Oh, you're right. I do. Oh my gosh.
I think Lori has a meeting.
Oh,
Oh,
we better get going. Oh.
oh my gosh.
Well, this has been a fun day. Run, run. Guess we can't talk anymore. Jeez. Bye, Lori. It's been nice knowing you.